ICQ Podcast episode 378, Gateways on the Air 2022. Well, hello and welcome fellow amateur radio enthusiasts to this, our 378th episode of the ICQ Amateur Radio Podcast. Supported this episode by Yusuf Chardon, Mike 7, Charlie Zulu Foxtrot, and our monthly annual subscription donors. In this episode, Martin M and MRB is joined by Martin, Mike 0, Sierra Golf Lima, Frank, Kilo 4, Foxtrot Mike Hotel, Bill, Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo, and Leslie, Golf 0, Charlie India Bravo, to discuss the latest amateur radio news. Myself, Colin, M6BRY, rounds up the news in brief. And this episode's feature is a feature on Gateways on the Air for 2022. Well, as always, it's your very kind donations that keep this show advert-free and on the air and help us to invest in projects like the Digital Group and continue to evolve the show and keep the website running, etc. And this episode, we have a new subscription donor to go along with our monthly subscription donors. That's Yusuf, Mike 7, Charlie Zulu Foxtrot. And he says the podcast is a great resource and thankful for it. And thankful for all the team in keeping the show active. Many congratulations on the number of episodes. So many thanks for your kind words, Yusuf. Really do appreciate what you say there. You can do what Yusuf and many other subscription donors have done, and that's they find value in the show and they visit icqpodcast.com/donate. They convert the value they find in the show into a monetary figure and send it our way. And so everything goes into our running costs and helping us pay our way. So we really do appreciate all the donations that we receive to the show. Now we'll continue on with the show and to show you what we do for that those kind donations by joining both Martins, Frank, Bill and Leslie, to discuss and generate thoughts about the latest amateur radio news, including 23 centimeters band satellites, an antenna paid from a 911 budget. As always, hope you enjoy.
Well, hi guys, welcome to episode 378 of the ICQ podcast and tonight's news roundtable for that episode. Tonight, I'm joined by Mr. Martin Rothwell, who's almost definitely going to try and get me into trouble. Mike, M0SGL. Hi, Mike.
I think your opening words were, seriously, mate, you're going to get me into trouble. And that's before we've even come on the air. But good evening.
Oh, I know you will. That's the thing is. Okay, let's move to the States. We have Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH.
Hey, Martin and everybody. It's good to hear Martin Rothwell back on here. We've missed you, brother.
Yeah.
I forgot I wasn't here last time round, actually. Sorry.
No. We want your
no
sick
idea
note.
where I was.
No, we need your sick note, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it'll be on your desk first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay, because I don't want to do disciplinaries or nothing like that.
I just need to be able to forge my mum's signature. That's
all right.
But must have a rubber stamp made up from when I was at school.
Yeah. We also have Mr. Bill Barnes, WC3B. Hi, Bill.
How am I supposed to follow that?
With your usual.
Everybody.
With your usual Leslie impersonation.
No, we don't have to do Leslie impersonations, guys.
Leslie's here. You can't do it in front of his face, can you?
Yeah, no, we actually have Leslie, Mr. Leslie Butterfield, G0CIB. Hi, Leslie.
Oh, good evening, Martin. What can I say? I nearly didn't make it tonight. I switched on my PC and then it decides it wants to do a Windows update. And I cannot say what I thought, but it was like I'm watching the twirly thing go round and round and round, and all I could do was sit there. But I'm here now, so good evening, Martin.
That's good news. It's good news. And, we all get caught by the Windows update at certain times. And that's why I record on a Linux box. But I've been caught out on big updates on this as well before, so you have to be careful. Right. First news story of the day. And it's really kind of an announcement for a bit of fun, but the Q code for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, we talked about it last episode. Those of us who've got NOVs can operate with a Q. Can't we, Leslie?
Yes, Martin. I went onto the RSGB website and there's a link on there. I clicked on the link. There's a little bit of information it needs, your name, call sign, and I think your license number. And I did 3 NOVs, 2 for my local club that I hold licenses for, and 1 for myself. And all 3 NOVs took less than 10 minutes. They then send you an email to confirm, and it's very, very quick, very, very easy. I was delighted when it came through, which means between the 1st of June today and at the end of June, between now and the end of June, we can use the GQ prefix. So we're going to get the antenna up at the radio club and start GQing. Over to you, Martin.
Yeah, sounds reasonable, mate. Well, I spotted a Facebook post this morning from Andy, who's a listener at the Coulston, the Cats Club in Coulston. And he wrote, has anybody got a GQ call sign? And I went, no, I'm sorry, I haven't got one of those, but I've got an MQ. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of fun. I'm going to pass it to Mr. Rothwell. Did you bother to get one, or did Edmund not pressure you to get one?
I mean, to be honest with you, he might have sent me an email. I haven't looked at my emails in a long time. But even if I can have these call signs, I don't go in for them. I personally just don't get the appeal of it. Whatever floats your boat, I suppose. Hopefully it'll be an excuse, I guess, get more people on the air, either operating as GQ, MQ, whatever, 2EQ, 2QE, whichever, or trying to get the Q call signs in the log. I'm guessing that's probably the incentive for it. It might confuse a few people overseas. They're looking at this. What does that mean? But I'll tell you what, the people it is good for is the people that print out QSL cards. But we should specify, of course, as Leslie mentioned, you cannot just add Q to your call sign. I know previously they did, I forget what it was for, but there was something that's like, if you want to, you could just use this on the end of your call sign. But for this, that you have to request an NOV. If you don't request the NOV, it is not a legally recognised call sign, so you have to do it.
And I would emphasise that it is very, very easy to do.
Well, if I can do it, Leslie, anybody can do it, mate. So, yeah, it was pretty easy.
Martin's hardest part of replying for that call sign was finding his glasses that he was wearing.
Probably.
Going back to what you were saying, it's all to do with the platinum celebrations for the Queen. Yes, that's the big thing in the country at the moment, and it gets a bit of activity on the air, which is always a good thing, isn't it?
Anything that gets activity on the air, I'm all for, especially if people want to at least talk and exchange a few pleasantries. Let's just say that.
So, Bill, I don't know if working anybody with a Q in their call sign is going to be of interest to you, because I know you do a lot of working lots of people. The difference is that you won't be able to, you'll just know that anybody that's either G, 2 or M with a Q after it, they're somewhere in the UK. You won't know if they're Scotland, Wales or Ireland, Northern Ireland. So, yeah, I don't know if you're interested in that.
Somewhat. I mean, I'm not really a prefix chaser. Some folks are going for those worked all prefixes awards, so that this would be a good time to grab some of those if you're looking for MQ or GQ. But the one thing I will say is Edmund shared on the ICQ podcast Facebook group a list of special event stations. Not all of them are jumping on the Q calls, but they are a lot of special event stations going on this month. There's something looks like just about every weekend, and some are all month long. So, if you like working special event stations, which they can be fun to chase, there's definitely some opportunities here. And thank you, Edmund, for posting that on the Facebook group, because that way I can go find it real quick when I'm looking calls up in the DX cluster.
Yeah, as I say, that was a good piece of work by Edmund. Frank, are you likely to chase any Q suffixes?
Possibly. I will be out with N5 Delta uniform this coming Saturday for the ARL digital contest. I'll certainly be out there. I'm not sure how that'd work in a FT8 exchange, but it will be out, and I will keep an eye out for those, and certainly will try to work them. My only advice is that they should put all those who get an NOV to have Q in their call sign into a hat and draw one who can play Q in the next James Bond movie.
Very droll, very droll.
Yeah, that's an interesting
What a
one.
setup.
Oh, dear.
Do you know what? At the risk of being controversial, you know, when you go to some websites, you go on there and when there's like a high demand for the website, they say you've been placed in a queue. I'd love it if the RSGP just as a laugh, you know, you go to request it and you've been placed in a queue to request your queue call sign.
Oh, you're being a naughty boy. You're being a naughty boy. But
Sorry,
listen,
Steve.
yeah. Well, I spoke to a couple of new listeners to the podcast the other day, and they're enjoying our sense of humour as much as anything else. And at least we give them some fair back.
We can't all be plain-faced and just straight and solemn and boring all the time. We've got to mix it up.
Yeah, we
That's
certainly
all about.
So if you're a foundation license holder in the UK and you have an MOV, you will become MQ3, MQ6 or MQ7, and they're followed by your letters. There is no MQW for Wales. That's not a valid call sign.
Would it not be MWQ?
No. They're doing away with the region locator and replacing it with a Q. And if you are in England, you add the Q. Other parts of the UK, you do away with your regional locator like Northern Ireland, the Isle of Man, Guernsey, Jersey, Wales and Scotland, and you replace it with a Q. The same for the 2 series of licenses, 2E becomes a 2Q, 2M becomes a 2Q.
You know, I think that in itself, and I know I said I don't get the appeal of these things, but I think that in itself will attract people from outside the UK because they'll see M or G. Okay, that's UK. Hang on, Q? Whereabouts is that? Let's try and call them. So, you never know. That might really promote some activity.
Well, one hopes so. So, yeah. So that's that one. And yeah, I've already had one contact as MQ1 MRB today, only because the person called me as MQ0 with his call sign. But yeah, that's good. Okay, move to our next news story. Our American cousins probably won't know much about this, but SOTA is going to be featured on the BBC Countryfile television programme that normally goes out on a Sunday round about tea time, and it's all things about the country. So it's nice because you see all nice country things, and it's probably a bit wrapped in cotton wool in many ways, but it's nice. But they're talking to a gentleman about Flatholm Island in the Bristol Channel because it's claimed to be the birthplace of amateur radio, because they say, rightly or wrongly, Marconi's first radio transmissions overseas took place from there. So I don't think he's contacting other people. I think he was, he's gone to an island and he's set up a station and started working there. But I think that could be an interesting one. I didn't know about this, so I'm going to pass it to Frank, because did you know that Marconi did calls in Bristol?
I did not. That was a surprise to me. I've read a good bit. I don't claim to be, a historian of that, but I really like this story, Martin. And part of it is we tend to have an image of amateur radio operators in the basement or in the loft or, somewhere inside a structure. And one of the nice things about SOTA, as well as POTA here lately, is you get outdoors, you get into beautiful places. And I must say, the English particularly, and I'm sure Ireland as well, countryside can just be breathtakingly beautiful. So amateur radio kind of outdoors with SOTA is very, very attractive image to be in the media, like on the Beeb. And so I'm delighted there, but I was not aware of that part of Marconi's history.
No, and I'm gonna save you from the wrath of many in the UK. In England, the UK consists of many more parts than England. What you said. So, UK.
Please let me pre-file my apologies.
No, it's not getting you, Frank.
Just fax through your letter of apologies, Frank. It's fine.
Yeah,
We'll print it out and put it on his desk.
It's all right. I was talking to Andy, one of our listeners, the other week, and he's Welsh, and he was saying he has to tell people he's UK because he said people don't know where Wales are. Often people calling into the States, he does support for the States. Often people don't know where Wales are, and they say to him, "Is it near Scotland?" And he bites his bottom lip. So,
well, it's on the same kind of land mass, I guess.
Listen, all he's got to say to any baby boomer in the U.S., say, "Hey, it's the place where Tom Jones is from," and then they know where Wales is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Right, so there you go. Bill, I'm going to let you have a go second one of this. What do you think about it? Because you do SOTA and that sort of thing. I assume this will come up on YouTube at some point in time.
Well, that's what I'm wondering is how can I catch this clip at some point? Hopefully, it'll be on YouTube. If not, I'm pretty much out of luck because I've
VPN
not been successful. Not been successful legally obtaining BBC programming across the pond.
VPN.
But I was looking for if that was a summit because I do know some of the islands in Wales, off the coast of Wales, do have summits on them, and some of them are more than 1 point, so they're pretty formidable hill at that point. But the only thing I found on Flat Home was a lighthouse, which that's pretty cool too. So maybe that's where he's going to set up, but probably he'll probably set up and probably see who's on and maybe have some skeds scheduled and show some activity, which is really neat. Another interesting random, just a little tidbit here quick. I actually know where Wales is, and the only reason I do is because they have a archery tournament over there every late summer, early fall. And it is probably one of the more challenging field courses I've ever seen because they build it around some of the quarries around there. So case in point is you'll have an 80-yard shot with your bow and arrow, but you're aiming so far up or so far down that it's actually like 30 yards away as far as your sighting can tell. And I always like watching those videos on YouTube because, man, that's some brutal terrain, and that's a very challenging course. But aside from that, yes, most people would not know where Wales is.
Well, outside the UK anyway. So, yeah. Leslie, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, my thoughts are that Countryfile is a very well-respected programme on the BBC, and it's a case of presenting what amateur radio is all about, and we get the message out there to what we do and how we do it, and rather than sometimes this was alluded to a little bit earlier, when it's in a building and we only see the back of the operator, and I'm not too keen on that personally. I think it's about getting the message out there, and that's what it's all about. I operate at my local place called Pole Hill in East London, and it's overlooking London, and occasionally I get people come along and say, what are you doing and how you doing? We sit down and have a chat. I get my flask of tea out and show them what we're doing. So, and somebody might be interested and want to join the club, and that's all great. So I think this is positive. Something certainly could come of it.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you because, this is not a program I would expect amateur radio to turn up on. However, it's all about the countryside, and summits on the air and parks on the air, and it is all about us being out in the open air. So yeah, it's worthwhile publicity. Martin, what's your thoughts on this one?
Do you know, I have visions of Leslie pulling his flask of tea out to talk to a member of the public and then spend the next 5 minutes explaining why a pork pie has just popped out of his flask of tea.
Thank you.
I'll be honest. I always thought the first Marconi transmissions came from Porthcurno in Cornwall, because there is a museum down there where they've got like the undersea cables and stuff that go out. And I'm sure they were talking about it and they were making a big thing about it being in Cornwall down there. Maybe I've misunderstood that. Maybe I have. I don't know. I haven't seen this episode. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I occasionally watch Countryfile. I don't watch much television. I don't particularly watch much BBC television. But as Leslie said, Countryfile is a very well-respected program. It has a lot of followers. I don't know how many viewers it gets, but it's one of the bigger programs that goes out on the BBC, which is, of course, our national publicly funded broadcaster. If you're going to get coverage on national television, this is the program that would do it, and probably promote it to the right audience as well, which I think is a good thing. There are some services that go out, perhaps we see amateur radio sometimes on the news for the wrong reasons, that perhaps don't always do their research properly. There was a program about undateable people once on one of the other broadcasters, one of the commercial channels. They had someone who was undateable that was chatting away on 2 meters locally to us. And again, probably didn't put amateur radio in the amazing light, but yeah, if they promote whichever way that Countryfile would have promoted it, I'm sure it would have been in a good light. But I am going to go and find it on the iPlayer now and watch it, and we can report back.
But Martin, let me add to this, because Martin Rothwell just mentioned iPlayer, and after Bill said he'd not had much luck, I went to it. Now I went to register, and it identifies me as in the U.S. and it doesn't say I can't register. Now, do any of you know that?
Typically, the BBC it's a controversial point. The BBC is funded by a television license. It's wrongly named because the money goes to the BBC, but it's funded for TV and radio is funded by a television license that we all have to pay for. And it's a bit of a controversial point, so I'm not going to get too into that. When you try and register for it, it will almost certainly come up and prompt you. You need to have a television license to watch this. However, there are, I believe there is like BBC America, there is BBC Worldwide, and there are other services which the BBC operate. And don't quote me on this, they have adverts, because I know that if I go to the BBC website on my company computer, and of course our company computer, our internet gateways are not in the UK, I see adverts on the BBC's website. And if there is a method where we can register with the BBC our IP addresses, and they take all the adverts away because they can't show us the adverts in the UK. So you might find that you are able to watch it, but you might get adverts. I don't quote me on that, because I've never tried it outside of the UK, but I know they have sort of a commercial arm. So you might, if it lets you register and it knows you're in the US, then you might well be able to register and watch it.
Well, it sent me a verification there.
Try it.
So anyway, we'll see. It'll be fun to watch, because this is just the kind of programming I think I would enjoy. So thanks for that fill-in.
Yeah, Frank, all I'd say is we're recording on a Wednesday. This program's going out this Sunday when the podcast is released. Do a connection and see if it works. Connect to iPlayer and see if you can play one of the other programs. Because if you can play one of the other programs, you'll play all BBC stuff. So just give it a try first.
Sure, I'll do that.
I had a feeling I tried to, because I was on holiday and I was downloading via the iPlayer, the app. It let me download a program. I think we were trying to watch Doctor Who, and we were on holiday in Cyprus, and it let me download it. And as soon as I tried to play it, it said, "You can't watch this because you're not in the UK." Like, well, I'm a UK resident. I pay a license fee, and so it sort of let me get everywhere, but it wouldn't let me play it. Saying that was 6-7 years ago, so they might have relaxed that. They might have cracked down. I don't know.
Well, we need to see. Right, moving on to the next news story. Martin.
Hello.
I'm going to go first with you on this one, because you and I, but now got 23 SEMS radios, even though I haven't got an aerial hooked up on mine.
Yeah.
And there could be problems. We could be running into problems. We better have our play on 23 SEMS fairly quickly, I'd suggest, looking at this.
Look, it's possession is 9/10 of the law. Okay, I've got 23 SEMS. I've had 23 SEMS for about 10 years, and I've probably spoken to 10 people on it over those 10 years, about 10 times. It is a very quiet band. Saying that, it's quiet for voice. There is television activity out there, or amateur television activity out there, that takes quite a lot of bandwidth. It does get quite a lot of use, but I don't have the kit to decode it, nor am I in range of an ATV repeater. Yeah, so this is they're running. My understanding, if I got this right, Martin, they're running studies looking at using parts of the 23 SEMS band for some Sat-Nav and whether they will coexist together. I kind of wonder why they're going after 23 SEMS. I mean, you bear in mind that radar, and like the big spinning radar at Heathrow Airport, interferes with 23 SEMS. And actually, if you watch the Enfield repeater on the BATC.TV website, you can actually sometimes see the pattern of as the dish sort of swings past and interferes with the rebroadcast signal. So how useful it will be, they're talking about the possibility of amateurs interfering with the satellite navigation. Well, maybe you might find that the radars also interfere with it. I wonder why they're going after this. There's lots of other space that they could potentially look at using if they want gigahertz bands. I mean, yeah, okay, the amateurs have got quite a few gigahertz band, and I know I'm going to make myself unpopular amongst microwave users, but there's a lot less activity on the very much higher frequencies. Would it not be better to use that? Or at the risk of being just cheeky, hey, no one's listening to what's on 220 megahertz, why don't you just use that? But that's just me being cheeky about DAB.
That's you being very naughty as usual. But yeah, the chair of the IARU Region 1, Barry Lewis, has looked at reports on this, and there is satellite navigation systems down there. In the notes that are going up on the web from this chat, looking at the diagram they're showing the best part of about 9 megs of bandwidth being taken up right in the middle by amateur TV. I believe that to be analog amateur TV, and just about everybody now is on digital amateur TV, so it won't be as big a chunk. It won't be taking up half the band anymore.
There are analog TV stations still going.
Yeah, there will be, but
it's quite easy to obtain the equipment for that.
I would suggest the more and more people going over, and it's not going to affect the standard GPS. I think it's going to affect the Galileo, the European Sat-Nav system that is they're worried about affecting. And they're saying if we're running 10 watts on 23 SEMS, we can be affecting receivers up to 30 kilometers away. They could say anything really, because if you're on top of Mount Snowdon, it'll be damn sight more than 30.
Can I be even more cheeky? I refer you to my comment of about 3 episodes ago. This device must receive any interference, including that interference that may result in undesired operation.
Yeah.
Says that on the back of your device. Next.
Yeah, true. Right. Bill, what's your thoughts? Are you a 23 SEMS user?
No. I don't think I get very far around here unless I was mountain topping. But as always, we see these stories from time to time where the various regulators around the world take a look at bandwidth needs and try to chisel a little bit more out of the amateur radio bands for commercial services. And this is exactly like you said, it's the Galileo satellite clusters. And you did mention it that a little bit of power on 23 SEMS into a antenna with a little bit of gain, and you're right, it's going to knock these satellite receivers out. because they're very sensitive, actually, according to the spec that's in this document. So I would assume that this isn't going to get very far, but it's still a spectrum defense issue. So we'll see what happens when they have the meeting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but it's like everything, Bill. I think the problem is, I bet these GPS satellite receivers are as wide as a barn door. You know, and they'll hear everything well on either side of their frequency, because that's the way people build receivers these days. You know, so I do wonder whether if the receivers were better in the first place, we wouldn't have this problem. And secondly, but they won't do that because it costs money, and the general public don't want to spend the money to buy a satellite receiver that's more expensive than, say, the American GPS system. Interesting. Frank, what's your thoughts?
Well, I'm not transmitted on 23 SIMs. I do have the capability with my IC 9700. I've been talking off and on with Bob Whitty, K0NR, and his comment was what Bill sort of alluded to, or, you know, Frank, who else you got there that's doing 1.2? And I know of no one. It's sort of off on the drawing board. When I get other things done, I may put a small Yagi in the attic with a rotor on it and play, but it'll sort of be there on the side. But yeah, I don't know a heck of a lot about it. The 9700 is a good radio, I believe, at least good enough I bought it. Its biggest issue at 1.2 is on digital with the frequency stability and the issue of drift. I think ICOM may have dropped the ball a little bit on their design there, which is not the issue you pointed out, Martin, about the front end, but it is an issue there for digital modes on 1.2. We have a lot of that on the West Coast, by the way, and folks can get up on high peaks and things. And Bill, there may be some in the mountain areas up where you are, but I've just not played in that arena to this point.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Now, Leslie, I know this is the black art to you. I know you only do HF. You don't like anything above 30 megs. But what do you think?
You're right. I've never operated in 23 SEMs in my life. HF is my bread and butter. I like playing HF. A little bit on UHF, but I think this would my brain would probably shake for one of these frequencies. Anyway, I seriously though, I know that the IARU does have very, very good expertise, and I'm absolutely certain that they would be on the case fully with this. And if there is a problem, they are the right people to be looking at it. That's where the expertise is. And I wish them well, and I hope it's sorted.
Yeah, I hope it gets sorted. It's just, I do wonder whether, as I was saying, commercial receiving devices often are as wide as a barn door, and often us amateurs get the blame for all sorts of things. So
yeah, it's the old thing, Martin. It's a bit like a hole in the roof, and then the rain coming in, and then blaming the rain. It's the same analogy.
Yeah,
the filtering's, to be honest, is rubbish. And yeah, the expression you used was as wide as a barn door.
Yeah,
Martin, you know why we get the blame nowadays, don't you?
Yeah,
it's because there's no CBers left to blame. There's nobody on the CB band anymore. Well,
they've all gone to GMRS over here.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you leave the CBers alone.
I'm not picking on the CBers. I was one. I still have a CB, and I still use it occasionally.
Yeah.
But there's a lot less people on there now. And then, whereas it used to be a case of, it must be the CBer at the end of the road. He's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's changed.
It is changed. And on the CB front, completely separate to this, Facebook channels I post to when I let people know this is out, and the CB community are actually very positive to this podcast. So they listen. I know they do. So good on them.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking it for 1 minute.
Nah.
To be clear.
It's all part of radio. It's all part of the hobby.
Cool. Of course it is. Right. This one it's more US centric because there weren't much out the US this last episode. So, Dayton was the big event and that's happened now. So I found a story that said ham radio antenna bill to be paid by 911 budget. And I thought, what's this all about? And I've started to get a bit touchy about things. And I thought, no, I'll tell you what, I'll calm down and I'll ask Frank, what do you think? So, Frank, what do you think on this one?
This is a very interesting story. Those in the U.S. may have seen it pop up a time or two since it hit the general news media in Coldwater, Michigan. Amateur radio has quite a varied relationship with government officials. Sometimes there are very good relationships, and as we talked in our pre-recording segment, Leslie and I kind of concurred, and I won't steal his thunder, but we kind of concurred on how that tends to operate. I'll let him do that part. But here's a story in Coldwater, Michigan that made the news media because the Branch County Board of Commissioners decided to bring forward a bill for $4,900. That's not much money as those things go, but it was for moving a ham radio club, a private entity's antenna, as part of their enhanced 911 project. For those listeners not in the U.S., 911 is a telephone system for emergency calls, and sometimes people call in just to talk to people. They're lonely, unfortunately. They decided to pay it out of 911 budget instead of a different one, and that caused some issues there. What's important about this story is here is a government group that decided to pay the bill on behalf of moving amateur radio antennas. Undoubtedly, the hams had paid for the transmission and receiving equipment. I'd be shocked if they didn't for that. And people might say, gee, why? Well, because of all the free labor and communications that amateur radio operators give in times of emergency. So I'm going to leave it there, but many similar hams would not enjoy that kind of support. There may be back patting and handshaking and saying nice things by some local government officials, but forking over their money on behalf of what they're doing is not easy. I've been in two different locations where I had a tremendous amount of trust. One when I was the emergency coordinator up in Starkville, where Mississippi State was. I had a key to the local cable company's machine building. I could have turned ESPN on or off. I mean, and we had a little repeater over in the corner. So I was extremely trusted. I doubt they would do that today, come to think of it. Also been trusted for access in hospitals here. Martin, you and Martin Rothwell probably also have some of that. Government gets a little shaky, and it can get very touchy with some of the escalation of insurance and risk and things like that. So I'll let the others weigh in on it, but I see it as a very positive story for amateur radio because they're not only valued in principle, they're valued in terms of money.
I understand that, amateur radio is a big value in the States in emergency services. And, it does seem that people ought to share the cost. That's what I was effectively going to say. Leslie, Frank mentioned you, so I'm going to let you go next.
Oh, thank you, Martin. You let me in it. Never mind. Well, Frank made some very, very important points. And I've sort of come to the conclusion that sort of dealing with government officials, we have local councils over here, the most important thing, 99.9999% of it, is the relationship you build up, the trust you build up, what they can get out of it in terms of service to the community. What are you doing for them? How can you make their life easier? If there's risk issues, how you look at those risk issues and how you address them properly and in a timely manner. once they see that you're doing these types of things, they're going to be a lot more amenable to what the radio amateurs are trying to do. And in this case, obviously, a bill has been put to another budget, which is a good story. I like this, but it really does show the importance of keeping good relationships with the government officials. The other thing I was going to mention is I have dealt with local councils before, and I've gone in after the fact, and sometimes it's been like where relationships have not been too good. It's a bit like trying to fix broken eggshells. So this is a very, very important story, and I would urge people to urge clubs to build relationships with government officials and local authorities, but good ones, and just make sure things are work in a proper manner.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, mate. And as I say, Martin will tell you later, yeah, we have a good relationship with the hospital where we have our repeater. And I did mention them, we could move it over for the amateur radio emergency boys if need be at any point in time. But they said, no, don't worry about it. No, it's a fun thing to think about. So,
Yeah, the technical issues tend to be secondary.
Yeah. So, Bill, you've had a little bit of dealings with this, I think, haven't you? Or you know about it?
Yeah, I'm aware of it from various years of helping out with emergency management in the Valley of Time Forgot. But that's basically what the gist of the story is folks had questions about, who's paying what and why. And from what I gather from the story is they moved from an old tower to a new tower, and they paid for professionals to move the radio club's antennas and coax and that kind of stuff. And that's a very similar thing that's happened to one of the local clubs around here. They were on the county's old tower. The tower got replaced by a new tower because these things have a fixed life before they're not safe anymore. And especially on top of the mountains around here, they get beat in the winter pretty hard. And so when the company was there doing the work for the county, they moved the radio club stuff too and just had it as a separate invoice. But the part that I think that was most folks are confused with is every county in America, well, every county in every state all across America have different rules. Somewhat, it's not really standardized. So, for instance, this may be an allowable expense for this fund, this enhanced 911 fund in that county, but the next county over might not allow that kind of expense. So that's why a lot of folks were a little confused, because there is confusion around the various funds that are. I had an emergency director 2 or 3 decades ago tell me that the funding model for emergency management back then in Pennsylvania was like a tapestry of disjointed pieces. So between all the little pieces, they were able to put together a emergency plan and basically build a budget and protect our county. Now I can tell you as of the last 5 or 6 years that our local area they've improved the funding model for emergency management, and they're dedicating resources better for what our actual most likely emergencies are, which in this part of Pennsylvania, believe it or not, it's flooding. That's our number one disaster scenario emergency that we have that's wide scale, is because we have a large river that goes through here. So those activities, when you do all the different accounting at the end of the quote unquote end of the month, a lot of folks ask questions, and that's basically what the article was brought up is people didn't understand why this was even being discussed at the county level and why this bill was being paid. But I'm sure it's one of those deals where they were decommissioning an old tower and moving everybody to a new site.
Yeah, that makes sense, Bill. That makes sense. Martin, last words on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Bill was saying. It's almost certainly moving stuff to a new site, and it's probably just the administrators or bean counters have just split the bill up so you can see exactly what they wanted the money for. But I'll be honest, I bet in any world, in any government or official body, there are probably lots more bills being paid for a lot more money that would upset a hell of a lot more people, that they would, and a hell of a lot more. You just don't know about them. I'm sure there's lots of unspent budgets. You know, you could argue that if you don't spend budget, you don't get the budget again. It's not always the right attitude, but pretty much every company adopts that. And equally, I would say it also depends on what kind of contract you have with the site owner. If it's an emergency services tower, irrespective, you have a contract with the owner of that tower. And you know, we know that amateur radio or ham radio plays, certainly in America and a lot of places like that, it plays a great part in emergency communications. It's less so in the UK, but in places where you do get natural disasters, hurricanes and things like that, it does play a part. So actually, technically, it sort of puts that cost more into perspective. Like, yeah, it's there, but it actually might save your life someday. You know, it might save the life of an average person. So actually, therefore, that money is justified. Someone's found out about it. It probably goes on all the time. It's just come from a different thing. It would shock you if you knew, if our members knew who, or our users knew who paid for our repeater. And I could say that, it'd be probably shock you even more. The fact the chances are the majority of the repeater has been paid for by myself, Martin, and a couple of the other members of the repeater team. The club do put some money into it, and obviously we had a donation from Yasu UK. Thanks, Cole. But yeah, it would shock a lot of people if people knew who paid for other things, I think.
Yeah, certainly would. And I'll say, but it's deemed as worthwhile on everybody's part. So that's
absolutely.
All right. The next one was a bit of fun. Next story is a bit of fun.
Undead in amateur radio?
Yeah, the Undead, Leslie. Go on, you go first. The Undead.
No, you take it, Martin.
All right. Well, this we covered a little while ago, but it was just worth talking about again. The amount of dead stuff and junk in space and the amount of satellites that are going up regular, you know, as well as Tesla cars and other things. But it's quite something to have a look at. Okay, let's pass it to Bill first then, if you don't want to go first. Leslie?
I'll take it, Leslie. I'm not afraid. The article was really interesting because it brings out the fact that there's over 7,000 individual satellites orbiting our planet. The article also is talking about, like 990 are added every single year. When that stuff is end of life and stops working, if it's not properly deorbited to Point Nemo, for those that pay attention to where they crash satellites into the Pacific, it becomes space junk. And the article goes through and talks about, hey, we still have stuff out there that is way past its usable life. Things that, still shouldn't be working, but it are due to, whatever random happenstance. The one I'm going to point out from the article, of course, is AO7, Amateur Oscar 7. That thing was launched in November 74, and it died in mid 81, and then eventually shorted out and came back in 2002, and it's still working in mode B, which is 70 sems up and 2 meters down, and that thing's been out there for a long time. 74, that would be 48 years, something like that. It's phenomenal, just phenomenal engineering that the thing is still working. And then the article goes through a bunch of other examples, Voyager 1, Voyager 2, some other communication satellites. But the point being is this stuff should probably be space junk, or deorbited by now, but it's still out there and it's still being used. Those that pay attention to the CubeSat world know that the Fox 1, Fox 2, I don't remember exactly which ones it was. AO85 is not working. AO91 is. AO92 isn't, I think. The last time I checked. I may have that backwards in my mind, guys. But the idea being is these things were put up there and they made it like 3 or 4 years each. And this thing's been in orbit 48 years. And it's a completely different kind of satellite. I get it. It's AO7's big. And it's it was designed to have a high orbit, so it's in different conditions than a CubeSat is. But it just blows my mind that it's lasted this long and people are still getting QSOs through it.
Yeah, it does my mind, Bill, that some of these things have been going that long. I must admit, I totally agree with you. Now, this is an interesting story. I'm going to ask Frank to go next, but it's an interesting story, and you added another thing which showed graphically a visualization of our planet with all the space junk up there, satellites and space junk, didn't you, Frank?
I did, and this is just I'm like Bill. Bill's a lot more advanced in terms of the sat work than I am, and I hope to get there in the next year or two. But it's very interesting having worked with NASA and them trying to get things commercialized. Well, they are, and there's a lot of stuff out there. The company Leo Labs, on their platform.leolabs.space/visualization, Google Leo Labs visualization, and you'll find it. It's a very impressive visualization of over 19,000 objects displayed, many of whom are legit, still working, doing stuff. Starlink is one example of it. But you can put filters on it. And when you put the filters on it and look at it that way, you are just amazed at all the stuff that's there. Rocket bodies, for example, just debris that it's not known exactly what that is, an old payload from something. And with this platform, you can also look at it by the country of origin. And again, I won't belabor the point, but it's a wonderful visualization of this, and frankly, quite scary. I tweeted this out earlier this week when I ran across it, and I said it's a little like driving on Interstate 85 north of Atlanta when I lived there, except it's in space. Interstate 85, the joke is that's not the interstate number, it's the minimum speed on the highway. So very fascinating story, Martin. I hope our listeners take a look at the data visualization as well as the original story.
Yeah, me too, Frank, because I think it's good. I think it's a good story. Now, Mr. Rothwell.
Hello.
Why don't you and I set up a company? We could become rag and bone men in space with all this junk up there.
All the scrap metal, yeah. Take your van around that and collect that. Can you imagine the look on the scrap metal dealer's face if we turned up with a satellite? It's like, how much for this? What? I look at this stuff and we talk about, okay, I'm not just talking about the genuine stuff that is junk or broken up or whatever, but the satellites and stuff, and some of the satellites that have come back on the air after however many years or whatever, that have sort of remedied themselves or come back into the sun or whatever. Think of the technology that is on there. Part of me thinks, what kind of kit was on board, and more to the point, Bill said, what is it, like 48 years that some of this stuff's been up there. Nowadays you put a bit of kit like that up in space, it'll probably die within 2 or 3 years because stuff is just not designed to last these days. Go back that time, and it's running 48 years later. That is incredible. They quoted in this 7,389 individual satellites that are up there in whatever state. I mean, geez. When they go off and then they come back on, and if you can't control them, and that's a lot of RF noise as well, though, isn't it? It's impressive. But I do wonder, now you take into account the things like what do they call it? Commercial space flight. We've obviously got Blue Origin, which is, of course, Jeff Bezos's latest venture. I forget what the other one's called, Virgin, whatever the Virgin one is. In the same way that we have, or planes have to talk to air traffic control so they don't fly into each other. Do they have to look at these maps of where the stuff is so they don't hit it, or is I guess they must be further out than you would have thought?
Well, I'm not sure, but Martin, I'm going to ask the question if you know why that satellite's still in use after 48 years. The answer is because the answer is because it never had a Windows update.
It's probably running DOS. Someone's got to go up there and put the floppy disk in.
Yeah. No, I was being
5 1/4 inch floppy disk with a tape, as it would be then.
Yeah. No, I was being very naughty. Leslie, I know that HF is your bag, but this is an interesting story, I would suggest.
Yeah, I'm just listening with interest, Martin. It's not my thing, but when you think, like, what happens in 50, 100 years' time when you want to do things and you think, well, actually, the space is just full of so much junk, you can't do what you want to do. Interesting thought. Over to you, Martin.
Yeah, certainly is. We'll find out. Well, I probably won't be around 100 years' time, but...
I definitely won't.
Well, there you go. So, interesting story and worth a look again. Right, last one came in from Frank. It's more of an announcement, but I think enough people in amateur radio use this stuff, and it's going to shock a lot of people. But Rig Expert USA shuts down on the 31st of May. So yesterday, no more. Rig Expert USA. Bit of a worry, Frank, I would suggest.
Those of us who use Rig Expert analyzers, and I have a couple of them and used them, and they're quite handy and quite good. I've been very, very active at times on the Rig Expert Groups I.O. Yuri Onipko, Onipko, VE3 Delta Z is the owner of Rig Expert USA. And he posted on the website that due to unforeseen circumstances, Rig Expert USA is officially closing for business effective May 31st, 2022. Please contact Rig Expert Ukraine for any support or sales questions. Well, I believe, but do not know, that this is also Rig Expert for Canada. I think it's Rig Expert USA and Canada, but I'm not 100% certain of that. Yuri is in Canada. The company address for both of those is in Canada. So we all know what's going on in Ukraine. We all may have known that Rig Expert in Kyiv was near downtown, just southwest of the town center, in an sort of business incubator building that may have been shelled. About half of their staff, according to the Groups I.O. postings, went into the military. One customer service representative, Alex, is now back on that list. I think he had gone. So, Martin, is sketchy details. By the time the podcast episode drops on Sunday, we may know more. There's been nothing on the Groups I.O. post about it. That's all we know, that just immediately Rig Expert USA, possibly covering Canada, is no more. See Rig Expert in the Ukraine.
Yeah, on that one. Well, I don't have a Rig Experts analyzer. I've had my MFJ analyzer. I've got a 369, I think it is. I've had that probably about 18 years. And getting it out of my hand is, it's a wonderful device. But I must admit, I have looked at these Rig Experts and thought, wouldn't mind one of those.
Yeah, Martin.
Yeah.
I've actually got one. I've got an AA35.
Hang on. Does it go above HF?
I think it's up to 35 megs.
All right.
But it's an excellent piece of kit. I mean, years ago we used to pretty much guess what was wrong with the setups, and just plugging that in the end, it's like, well, that tells you exactly what's happening with your antenna. So yes, they're expensive, but they are excellent pieces of kit. and I hope they can come back soon.
Yeah. Well, you did surprise me a little bit because I thought you were going to tell me you're one that went up to UHF.
No, they start becoming very, very expensive then.
Yeah, but hey, in fairness, at the time my MFJ 369 was very expensive, but
Yeah.
over 18 years, it's certainly earned its money. So
When you've got a piece of kit that tells you exactly what's going on, as opposed to just guesswork, then they're worth every penny.
Yeah, Martin, what's your thoughts?
Well, Rig Expert, I'm not familiar with the Rig Expert stuff. I think one of the guys from the club, Phil, might have a Rig Expert device. It's an interesting device, that's for sure. It's just, to me, I'm not overly familiar with it more than it's another analyzer. I know people say lots of good things about them, but analyzers get very expensive very quickly. It's a shame when any company closes its doors for whatever reason. Obviously, we don't know the full reason behind it. We wish the people there well. And, if they are referring people to their offices in Ukraine, then we obviously, and it goes without saying, we wish the people in Ukraine the very, very best, given the current situation out there.
We certainly do. Okay, Bill, last words on this one?
Yeah, just echoing what everyone else says. It's sad that they're closing down. Up until I got the Nano VNA, I borrowed the Rig Expert from one of the local hams around here was nice enough to loan it. And it is a really nice analyzer. I'm pretty sure, Leslie, the one I used was the same one because it was an HF only unit. But man, oh man, was that a quick way to troubleshoot stuff. Although I'm getting pretty good at the Nano VNA, I still think the Rig Expert was pretty much, I don't want to say plug and play, but it was pretty quick. Just a little bit easier to use than the MFJ units I used before when they were the only analyzer running around. I used the MFJ ones, but the Rig Expert was a nice unit, the one I used. So it's sad to see it they're closing down, and hopefully everybody's okay.
Listen, let me add this. I had posted a query on eHam and had gotten a post reply back as we were doing this story. And the person posting says that the website in Canada for Rig Expert Canada is still up. They are across the river from one another, which I guess they were actually located in two different countries, as the case is. So perhaps the Yuri Onipro is keeping the Canadian branch of that open. Let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so, because it sounds like a good product, although I don't own one. Okay, well, that then concludes our news stories for today. Well, let me find out what the guys have been up to since the last time we spoke. I'm going to go to Bill first, because Bill often has a hard stop. So, Bill, would you like to go first?
Yes, please. And yes, I'm going to take a hard stop here. Been a busy month at work and kids' sports season. So I actually got very little radio stuff done. I was able to pick up Kenya the other week on 15 meters and worked a couple SOTA stations, but that's about it. So we're coming into summer VHF enhancement time for those that enjoy that, for the North American folks. So we'll see if we start hearing stuff on 6 and 2 meters as well. But that's all I got at this point.
All right, Bill. Well, you can't be busy 100% of the time, and I've been trying to think what I've done this time round. So, we all keep busy, I know. Frank, what have you been up to? And I've had you on a couple of times recently, so you've only got 2 weeks to tell me.
Well, just a couple of little things here. The bandpass filter article that I've been talking about here on the podcast is out now in the June issue, the Get to the Field issue of CQ magazine. So if you're interested in that project, it's now out in CQ. I completed the addition of a timeline in my Sherwood Tools list where I've put the market entry of each rig and added links to the Rig Picks website's entry for each radio, which means you've got a picture and you've got some details there. Now, our colleague Ed, DD5LP, has been enjoying it over at Fox Mike Hotel and says he's sort of been drawn in as he gets into it, remembering all the rigs back in the day and how things have changed. And I think it's an interesting walk through time, and we can look at change in amateur radio by the change in the technology. In preparation for field day, I've been putting my Yaesu FT891 rig system into a 3U Gator case, a hard shell case. That'll give me my 100-watt radio, which we're all pinned to this year in ARL field day. I'm adding an SDR Play RSP1 box there to get a pan adapter waterfall. I'm using the little Chinese SDR switch. Saw Tech Mind's YouTube channel, our friend over your way, Martin, who had a very interesting review of that, and it's fairly inexpensive. And I'll add a small HP portable USB monitor to my ThinkPad, so I'll have 2 monitors here on my portable ops. That's going to help in sideband mode because you can hunt and peg, you'll see where the signals are and that sort of thing. The second monitor will also be useful for using Grid Tracker with WSJTX and N3FJP logging software. Those that know me see I'm an inveterate box builder. I kind of enjoy tricking out radios in different portable boxes and things like that. Getting my portable team ready for a field day operation this year. We've got 5 of us, and we'll be down south of the Jackson, Mississippi area in Lake Lincoln State Park, where we've rented a cabin. 5 of us will be down there from Friday to Sunday. N5DU and I will do a POTA activation Friday night and Saturday morning, and we'll be all on battery power with solar recharge. And that's trading on the various battery boxes I've built over the last few years. So we'll see how well that works out. And finally, I've been beginning to work with the Radio Amateurs of Canada, helping them with some of their survey data, as well as the amateur license data in Canada. And they're a great group of folks led by President Phil McBride, whom some listeners may remember I interviewed here on the podcast a few months ago. And I hope some of that work that I'm doing with them will help them make better informed decisions for amateur radio in Canada. I'm just really impressed with Radio Amateurs of Canada and how they do that national organization, Martin. And once again, I think I've stayed out of trouble.
Yeah, well, you did, but Mr. Rothwell and me haven't, so that's pretty reasonable, Frank. At least one of us stayed out of trouble. Leslie, what have you been up to?
Oh, well, I've been working with the Silverthorne Radio Club at Chingford. That's my local club. And we've been working on the broadband HF antenna we've been trying to put up. And the more we've been working on it, oh, well, we need a bracket this size, and we didn't quite work out that properly. And so it's been a bit of a saga. But thankfully, a good friend of mine, Peter, G4KSC, has been making the specialist brackets. So fingers crossed, I'm crossing all my fingers at the moment, we will be up and running this coming Friday with the call sign Golf Quebec 2 Hotel Romeo, because we've been off HF for a little while and we're going to be back on again, which will be great.
Certainly sounds it, Leslie. Certainly sounds it. And yeah, I worked Edmund when he was at the Amberley Chalk Pits Museum with a G2 call sign. Our club has a G2 call sign, so I worked in with the club call sign, which was quite nice, G2 to G2, which is pretty damn rare actually. But yeah, right, Mr. Rothwell, what have you been up to? What have you been up to?
Well, you mentioned earlier that we were trying to stay out of trouble, and just briefly, I will just say this in interest of staying out of trouble. I know I joked earlier to Bill about watching TV with a VPN. We do not, neither myself nor the ICQ podcast or anyone involved in it, we do not condone watching TV channels illegally. Read the terms and conditions of anything you might be watching. Just going to say that, get it out there. What have I been up to? Quite a lot, actually. Well, I say quite a lot. It's quite a lot of work for me, but it's not as much on paper. I have been playing a lot with SSTV, slow scan telly, 14.230. It's amazing. It's one of these like frequencies that is supposedly reserved for this. The amazing amount of people that think it's just a channel that you can call CQ on, and then they get really upset when they hear other people transmitting SSTV all over the top of them. Check your band plan. And I've been playing with MMSSTV as the app. I think it's quite an old app. It's been around for a while. I don't think it's had many updates. If it has, I'm probably using an older version of it. It's not the world's most intuitive app to learn or to use, but I've kind of spent quite a long time just playing with it and getting my head around it, and really starting to get into SSTV again. Most of the pictures I transmit are photos I've taken myself. Some of them are just test cards and things like that I've found. So really enjoying that. I used to use it, Ham Radio Deluxe, but the later versions, when they started charging, I just wasn't really interested in that anymore. Other than that, I've been playing with a talk group quite a lot with various modes, DMR, D-Star, and Fusion. My Fusion radio had to come out of my car for a short time, and then I had to put it back in because my car went in for its MOT test. It's basically, for those outside of the UK, our cars have to go through a test once a year to check that it is effectively still safe and roadworthy, i.e. the brakes work, the tyres are sufficient, etc., etc. And I just took it out because I needed them to do some work where the radio was located. Other than that, the only other thing that I have done is I had to reroute the antenna cable from my chimney pot antenna, which is about 20 meters of heliax cable, quite thick heliax cable, that comes down my roof, goes up under a tile, and it did go through a hole in the back bedroom ceiling and to where my shack was. But because I moved all of my kit out of there, because my daughter will need to move into that room at some point, I had to reroute it. I couldn't realistically get onto the roof to pull it out from under the tile, so I made another hole in the eaves, poked the cable down through the hole in the eaves and round to the new place where the shack is. So that was interesting, climbing over the loft, climbing all over the fluffy insulation that I put down. Fortunately, I knew where the bits were that I can and can't stand on, so that was okay, if not somewhat grubby and dusty. That's all now done now. That's working really, really well. I was a bit worried because at one point I did manage to fold the heliax. No, because I just pulled it a little bit too tight. Fortunately, I did put an analyzer on it. It didn't do any damage. It still works quite happily, and it is working an absolute treat. So that is, I think, what I've been up to over the last. And I've been programming up, cut up another radio, a Hytera radio that I was playing with. So I put a few more channels in that.
Well, it sounds like you've been doing a lot more than me, guys. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, and I keep mentioning this, but it's coming closer to fruition. At the moment in my house, I have a test system that runs the 4 modes: DMR, D-Star, NXDN, and Fusion. Now, I actually believed that the live system runs NXDN. I don't now believe it is actually working, and it would be too much effort to try and debug how it was installed. We're not that far away from me installing version 2 of our digital group, and for 99.9% of the users, you ain't going to notice a difference. And if you don't notice a difference, I've won. There's been some massive upgrades going on in the background. I've had mega amounts of help, and I've been learning this and having mega amounts of help, and it's being built properly and with supportable bits in it so that I can actually do it. And I've been trained as well, which is even better. So live system is still working. And what I will say on the digital live system is, for you guys listening, all around the world, we're international. I see people going through it at 3 o'clock in the morning in the UK, 5 o'clock in the morning in the UK, and I'm sure other parts of the world that's daylight and people are up and about. So, don't think that the UK are the only people on, and there are people in the UK that are up stupid o'clock in the morning. So, you know, there are more and more and more people putting calls out. They might not be getting answered yet, but the more you use it, the more you'll find that people will turn up to see you. I went to do the stats for the web DMR group. Unfortunately, Brandmeister seemed to have cleaned out their log files. So a lot of the information that was available 3 or 4 days ago that I didn't save is no longer there. And I can't complain because, Brandmeister is a free service. And if I can't get the information I want, well, it's not going to stop the thing from working. Have spent time on 42 and 70 SEMs as well. Just a couple of quick things that you guys might be interested in. The ICQ podcast will be at the National Ham Fest in the UK. We've been invited to come along and support that. And if for those of you who've had Ham Shack hotline and may have tried to contact me in the last 7 or 8 weeks, unfortunately the server I was on was down, but I'm now back online. So I'm back online and I've been moved to a server that's working, and my number is still valid. So, Ham Shack Hotline's back online, guys. And I would just say watch this space at the moment, because there's a few other things that I'm not going to mention now, but I've been working on, which may or may not be very interesting to you guys. So that's what I've been up to. Well, all that's left for me to do now is to thank the boys for joining us tonight. And then we'll move on to the next part of the podcast. I'd like to thank Mr. Martin Rothwell, M0SGL.
Thank you. It has been fun. It's great to be back.
Yeah, great. I'd like to thank Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH.
Hey, I enjoyed it, and great to visit with everybody, and hope our listeners enjoyed this episode.
I think they will, Frank. That's a good one. I'd like to thank Bill Barnes, if you're still with us, Bill. Obviously not, because Bill's gone.
Could we interject perhaps Leslie doing an impression of Bill in retaliation?
Yeah.
Go on, Leslie, do an American accent, say 73.
No, I can't do an American accent. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Leslie Butterfield, G0CIB, for joining us. Thanks, Leslie.
Thanks for having me on, Martin, and apologies about earlier, but this computer I've got senses when I'm trying to do something important and automatically goes into a Windows update. So
yeah, standard practice, Leslie. Standard practice. We all live with it. So okay. So all that's left, I'll say 73 to you guys, and we'll move on to the next part of the podcast. 73, guys.
Cheerio.
73.
Keep your amateur ham radio podcast advert free by donating less than a length of coax. Visit www.icqpodcast.com/donate now. For all the news, links and information, visit www.icqpodcast.com.
And now it's time to have a look at the news in brief with me, Colin, M6BRY. We start with news here that a ham radio operator based in Essex, Tim Nearbard, Mike 7 Tango Mike November, has received a British Empire Medal as part of the Queen's Birthday Honour List. Tim, along with other volunteers, created the East Essex Hackspace, a maker community in Hockley. At the height of the COVID pandemic, Tim and his team manufactured 12,000 face shields using laser cutters. These face shields were distributed free where they were needed. During the second lockdown, the team shifted focus to providing laptops for kids. Tim is also a member of the Essex Ham group as well, who do a lot of work in promoting ham radio throughout the county of Essex in the UK and further afield. So congratulations to Tim on being recognised by Her Majesty the Queen in her birthday honours. This weekend is a lot of celebrations going on for the Queen of England's Platinum Jubilee. And special event station Golf Bravo 70U is active on amateur radio QO100 geostation satellite responders. Now, as part of that, they've been able to bounce from the island of Guernsey from a station operated by Keith GU6 Echo Foxtrot Bravo on a narrowband digital TV repeater up to space and back again. So we've got a little, link to the live transmission that's going on, and say this is something you're interested in. It's certainly well worth checking out. So that'll be on the ICQ podcast webpage for you. Coming up at the end of the month, the Boston Amateur Radio Club will be holding its field day, and that will be taking place on Saturday the 26th of June and Sunday the 26th, and say from 2 to 8 on the Saturday and 10 to 1 on the Sunday. It's taking place at Howell Reservation in Westwood, near, Boston, Massachusetts. As I say, they've been going since 1933, and as I say, obviously are a very active group there, trying to promote what they're doing in that part of the world. So in essence, there's lots of stuff going on there, etc., including electronic do-it-yourself environment, as I say, to come along and see from there. So if anyone in the area, anyone visiting, maybe on holidays, etc., we'll put links, information to what the Boston group are doing on the ICQ podcast webpage for you. Right, now we're going to head over to our feature this episode, which is a feature on gateways on the air for 2022. As always, hope you enjoy.
And now what you've all been waiting for, this episode's feature from the ICQ podcast. Well, hi guys. For this feature, I want to talk about Gateways on the Air, which is an event happening very, very, very soon. And tonight I have Oscar with me to Quebec 1 Hotel Whiskey Echo. Nice to hear you, Oscar, and glad you're using the Q call sign.
Yeah, thanks for having us today, Martin. And couldn't not be done, could it? To Quebec, had to be done, and enjoying using it for the month of June.
We do. I forgot about it. I've got MQ1 MRB as well, but I've only used it once so far. But there's plenty of time for the rest of the month.
There certainly is, and I like it when, especially intermediate or foundation license holders get the opportunity to have an NOV, which is pretty rare unless you're a full license holder. So anything like that, I always take full advantage.
Yeah. So we've now got Gateways on the Air happening in just over a week's time. Tell us what you're trying to achieve with it, Oscar.
So Gateways on the Air is back for its second year. We did it last year as the inaugural year. And for anyone who's not familiar with it, the aim of Gateways on the Air, or GOTA, is to promote increased RF voice communication via these little unknown gems called simplex gateways, Martin. And these gateways, all the repeaters get the limelight, you see, but people don't realise what either an analog or a digital simplex gateway is. And what we want to do is encourage licensed amateurs to go out into the fresh air, either portable or mobile, and work a local simplex gateway from a location of public interest. That's what it's all about.
Well, it's all about, as you say, having fun and getting out there, maybe the public see us. So the event's going to run from the 11th to the 19th of June. How would I go about doing this, Oscar? Because, I'm going to plead total ignorance here. I'm sitting here with a handy talkie, could be an analog one. How do I go about finding these gateways?
Well, this is the fantastic thing. There's a number of different ways you can find a gateway near you. So the first thing I would say is thank you and acknowledgement for the second year running to the Freestar network. Now, the Freestar network already have a big infrastructure of analog and also digital gateways, so they're all going to be available to use. But we're also encouraged other gateways that aren't on the network to connect for the 9 days. As you said, it's between the 11th and the 19th of June, a 9-day event. And there'll be other gateways that are normally parked on other networks, etc., that will be connecting up just for this one event. So it is open to all gateways. But if you're a user, there's ways you can search. And the first one will be go to the GOTA website, which is www.gota.org.uk. And there's actually a link there with a location map, which shows, and it's updated regularly, all the gateways that have been confirmed for the event. If for some reason there's not a gateway close to you on that map, it doesn't mean that you still could not access one. If you go to the ETCC website, the Emerging Technologies Coordination Committee, they're part of the RSGB, you'll find a list of all the gateways on there. And basically, there might be a gateway that's near you that you can personally connect up via DTMF tone. So, it's a great thing, and I encourage anyone to, look into gateways a little bit more, because, people don't realise they're there, and anything we can do to get people their awareness up on them is what the event's about.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, I'm actually looking at your website now, so there's kind of very little excuse, because you've got 2 metre simplex gateways, 70 SEMs, 4 metres for the people in the UK, and 6 metre gateways as well. So if you're out and about and you're anywhere near a gateway, and you've looked it up, that sounds to me like an ideal situation. Certainly if you've taken a good lady shopping, and that's a sexist statement. I'm sorry, girls, if you listen to this.
The good news is, Martin, we also have 2 10-metre gateways as well that's available. So if you fancy a bit of HF and propagation, knock yourself out. We've got 2 10-metre gateways. So that's also quite interesting for experimentation as well.
It certainly is experimental, and that's good fun. Now, you do connect to a couple of the digital networks as well. You're connecting to the Phoenix network and the DV Scotland network. So that's also, there are lots of ways to come in, but they're repeaters, aren't they? So I suppose they don't count on the gateways on the air week you're doing.
So the good news is the event is fully inclusive. So what do I mean for that? GOTA is a just for fun event, but there are 2 competition categories. So we run 2 competition categories, and there's 2 classes. You've got either activators or chasers. So the activators, Martin, are people who go out into the fresh air, into the field, and they are working the analog or the simplex gateways from places of significant interest. But obviously we appreciate not everyone can get out and work a gateway. So we do a second category for people that we call chasers, and they can be at home, either on a hotspot or a node, or even on a repeater, and they can work the activators, if that makes sense. So it's all kind of in the homage to SOTA, BOTA, IOTA. It's all that kind of stuff, and it's not serious competition. It's not DX. It's not, it's not a contest. Definitely not. It's just for fun. And if you can't go out and work a gateway, not a problem. You can still participate and join in as one of these chasers. And at the end, all you have to do is actually log your QSO, your contacts, on the gota.org website. And if you do that, have one meaningful QSO, that's all you need to do through the whole 9 days. You will be entered into a prize draw to win a radio. And I can tell you a little bit more about that if you want me to.
You can do. Bearing in mind that we don't take sponsorship, so I'm happy as long as it's not a straight advertisement.
No, the event is sponsored by a radio store, but you can obviously find out more about that on the GOTA website. But they've kindly donated, Martin, 2 Anytone AT779s, which are both 4-metre band transceivers for free as the prizes, which is absolutely fantastic. So we've got them up for grabs. So if you fancy a go on 4 metres, which is a real up-and-coming emerging band, a lot of people now are finding 4 metres, and it's becoming a bit more popular. So we thought, what a great prize. A lot of people haven't got 4-metre equipment. So there'd be 2 prizes, one for the activator category and also one for the chaser. And as I said earlier, all you need to do to be in for a chance of entering the draw is literally just log one meaningful QSO that you've had on the website. We'll put all the names in a hat, and obviously 1 or 2 random winners will be very lucky to win the prize.
Well, that sounds great. Well, I know our young Edmund, he wanted to do this chat with you, but for technical reasons couldn't do it today. But I know he's going to be on fairly active on this. He's getting all excited to do all sorts of things. So this is one of his many things he's going to do to celebrate his Q suffix as his part of his call sign. So I think you're going to get quite a few people doing this, Oscar.
Well, that's what we're hoping. We're hoping everyone gets encouraged to go out. You know, we're quite fortunate. It's the week before the summer solstice. The weather's hopefully going to be good. Last year it was brilliant. And it's light evening, so there's no excuse. You know, even if you get home late, get out with your radio and work a gateway, either mobile or portable, and we're trying to get as many of these gateways connected. We've actually got a few theme days as well, which are all on the website. But to give you a quick, spoiler, on the Saturday, the first day, on the 11th, it's going to be royal residencies. So we're asking people to go out to a gateway that they can access from a royal residence, because that is officially the Queen's birthday that day, her official birthday. Then we're looking at Motoring Sunday, Marconi Monday, and the list goes on. So every day there'll be a theme, and you don't have to be strict and go by that theme, but it's just to give people a bit of encouragement, a little bit of an idea to go somewhere. Castles on the air, we're doing that. We're doing a beaches on the air day. So every day's got a theme where we're saying to people, try and go to this location and work a gateway, and it's all, for fun there. And apart from that, we've also got a few special events call signs. We've got the actual go to special event call sign, GB1 GOA, also GB6 OTA. And then we've got 2 invited special events calls. And this is on the last day, Martin. This one's not to be missed. On Sunday, the 19th of GOTA, there will be GB2 VUL, which is the Vulcan Restorial Trust at London Southend Airport. They will be doing a Vulcan activation from the Vulcan at London Southend Airport into the network via the gateway MB7ISX in Southend-on-Sea. And we're actually trying to get people to go to other Vulcans in the country. There's one actually at the Newark Air Museum where Hamfest normally is, and you can access a couple of Lincoln gateways from there. We've got someone else going out to, I think it's the northeast, and they're going to try and work the Vulcan from an air museum there up in, I think, Tyne and Wear. And that would possibly be the call sign, another special event call sign of GB2NAM. So if you like aviation and you like special events call signs, don't miss the 19th of June. That would be the one to participate in.
Okay, so in fairness, this is a UK event. Unfortunately, our colleagues around the world won't be able to take part, I assume, in this because unless gateways in other countries are included.
Well, this is the thing. I'm not aware of any gateways anywhere else in the world in the similar structure to the UK where they've got an NOV and their license. But I know there's plenty of personal nodes that I think, especially in North America, they're kind of open to anyone to use. People put big antennas on their house, and they run them as more of a commercial kind of outfit where other amateurs can use them. And I think in the States you don't actually need any licensing conditions for that. You can just do it. But this is to promote UK digital and analog simplex gateways. However, it doesn't mean that anyone in the rest of the world can't participate as a chaser. So there still will be international stations calling through who will be trying to work the activators. So it is definitely inclusive, but obviously the competition, the prize draw is only for UK amateurs with UK addresses for taxation and hostage reasons. So you won't unfortunately be able to enter the competition if you're outside of the United Kingdom.
So, Oscar, in fairness, you've got a great website. Do you want to tell the users where they can spot you?
Yes, certainly. So the website is www.gota, that's gota.org.uk. You'll see on there a little bit of information about what the event's about. There's a couple of YouTube videos there with myself and Chris, the digital analog ham on YouTube. He's been a great supporter of the event. And there's me just explaining on a video there a little bit about what it's, the whole idea and what we're trying to do. There's also the maps if you want to get connected where your gateways are located that are going to be on the network. And also if you're a chaser and you haven't got a gateway, there's also a link to the Freestar network page where you can find any other way, whether it's D-Star, DMR, P25, NDXN, M17. The list goes on. Every single base is covered if you're a chaser and you want to get into this event. And again, thank you to the Freestar Network for again hosting this for the second year running. So yeah, that's the website. Also, there'll be daily updates on the freestar.network Facebook pages. So if you're into the Facebook, check that out. The group that you need is Freestar International or Freestar UK. Either one will do. And that's where you'll get most of the info.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm sure that a number of people will, having heard this, like to have a go. I'm sure that some of our listeners outside the UK might get very excited at this and see if they can do something to do something along these lines. So, and especially if there's a 10-meter gateway, maybe you might get people coming on HF from outside the UK. But all being all, I wish you every success on this, Oscar, and hopefully we'll be chatting about this again next year.
Yeah, most certainly. And, what we're saying to people is, look, if you've never tried working either an analog or a simplex gateway, give it a whirl. They're connected to the internet. They link up loads of stuff. And it's very, very interesting because if you call CQ, you never know, Martin, who's going to come back to you.
You don't know, which is the fun of it. And
exactly.
That's the fun. Okay, well, thank you very much for giving us this update on what you're doing, Oscar. Most appreciated. And we'll hopefully generate some people to take part in this for you.
We hope that will be the case. Thanks for having us. 73.
No problems. 73.
The ICQ podcast, advert free since 2008.
Well, Dad, many thanks to you and Oscar for our feature, talking about gateways on the air. And as always, hopefully something for everybody to have a think about and get their heads around. And as I say, hopefully, something you might like to get involved in. So, we'd like to appreciate Oscar there for getting involved with there. Now, I know, Dad, there was something you wanted to pick up on from the news roundtable that you wanted to clarify in relation to rig experts.
Yeah, I did, Colin. And we mentioned that rig experts had gone out of business in the US and that we were quite concerned about it. Since that news story broke on us, we've got a bit more information. So we were probably early to the well on this story. But it turns out, unfortunately, the gentleman that ran a company called PNC Engineering decided to call himself Rig Expert USA. Unfortunately, he passed away very suddenly, and our condolences go to the family. But unfortunately, he passed away suddenly, and his wife no longer wishes to run the company or have the company. So, that's why Rig Expert USA has gone out of operation. Rig Expert Canada is still operational, so for those of you in North America, it shouldn't be a problem. Apart from getting stock from the Ukraine, I would guess, but for the rest of the world, nothing to worry about apart from the Ukraine issue, which is a bit of a problem there, Colin. Back to you.
Yeah, as I say, the continuing war, conflict, invasion in Ukraine continues to cause problems across the world and across different areas of our lives, and as I say, it's reflected in that story as well. Now, I know something you're spending a lot of time working on is continuing to make improvements on the digital group, and people can find out more information about this at digitalgroup.icqpodcast.com. But as I say, it's continuing to be used after our successful activity day, and as I say, it continues to be a great success, I suggest, for this year. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the digital talk group, Colin. And I did mention on the main session that I can no longer tell you how many people have connected due to log files that are no longer available to me on a on Brandmeister's server. However, we have to look at it honestly and say we don't pay for it. So I can't complain. In fairness, we went up by 2 new countries. We ended up getting Singapore and El Salvador into the list. So at the moment, we're at 44 countries. I can tell new countries that have joined the talk group. So 44 countries to me is quite good. I am looking and seeing people connecting at all hours of the day and night, in fairness, which is good. As please, guys, even if somebody doesn't contact you, please keep doing it, because the more people are actually getting there, you will come across each other as more and more people connect, and there are more and more people connecting to the talk group every day. That will help, and once they know it's a busy talk group, they will obviously join you. And just another thing to remember, guys, there are some repeaters that are now connected to the ICQ podcast, so you may actually get people in different parts of the world so you actually thought you would at certain times of the day and night. But yeah, I think it's doing well, Colin.
Yeah, as I say, if you want to find out more about the talk group and how you can get involved, digitalgroup.icqpodcast.com is where you need to go. Right, well, we'd like to thank our monthly and annual subscription donors that, as I say, support our way and help us, as I say, with the show. And also like to thank again Yusuf Chaldon, Mike 7, Charlie Zulu Foxtrot, for setting up a new subscription donation to the ICQ podcast. I can't stress enough, these are payments and I say supports we get for you for the value you show in the show. I say keep us paying our way, and I say keep us on the internet, etc. for now, and also helps us to invest in things like the digital group. So what we'd like you to do, if you find any value in what we do at the ICQ podcast, I say visit icqpodcast.com/donate. As I think of a monetary value that shows that what you're getting for the show, there's some options there you can subscribe to, or alternatively make up one of your own, send it our way, and I say it's always greatly appreciated. We'd also like to thank Martin, Mike 0 Sierra Golf Lima, Frank, Kilo 4, Foxtrot Mike Hotel, Bill, Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo, and Leslie, Golf 0 Charlie India Bravo, for taking part in the news roundtable. So many thanks, guys, for taking part of us there. Right, well, I think that just wraps up this episode 378 for your ICQ podcast. I think all that's left to do now is to recommend a nice cup of tea, maybe a nice treat, a chocolate biscuit or two, and maybe a morning in the garden enjoying, let's say, the Queen's Jubilee weekend for you in London with the lovely Mrs. B. So I say I'll let you prepare for that and bid you 73s.
Yeah, okay, Colin, no problems at all. Well, we'll do the cup of tea and a chocolate biscuit for Mrs. B, but we ain't going out in the garden. We've got typical UK bank holiday weather. It's raining hard. Anyway, no problems, Colin. We'll have a good day. 73s to you all from M1MRB.
73s. I'll catch up in a fortnight's time. 73.